without raising.
The following is a special presentation of ABC Sports.
ABC Sports presents, live in its 28th season, the Professional Bowlers Tour. Today from Baltimore, Maryland, it's the 20th annual $150,000 Fairlanes Open. In our first game, Phil Ringener of Big Spring, Texas, bowls for his first ever television victory. He'll face lefty Tony Marisi from Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. That winner takes on Akron, Ohio's Ron Bell, also seeking his first PBA title. Our semifinal match features San Jose, California's Don Mosier, and our tournament leader with 2 titles on the PBA Tour, Amleto Monicelli from Venezuela. That's our field today on ABC's Professional Bowlers Tour telecast. We're delighted to be back in the friendly Baltimore, Maryland area. There you see a revitalized and beautiful inner harbor of a great city here in the state of Maryland. Woodlawn, Fairlanes for the finals of the $150,000 Fairlanes Open. Fairlanes, 110 bowling establishments across the country, 4,108 lanes coming under the Fairlanes umbrella. We've been coming here for 20 years, 5th year at Woodlawn. I think you'll enjoy our telecast today. It's an interesting field, and the first game will be coming up. But following us will be ABC's Wide World of Sports. Special performances by the United States figure skating champions, plus 2 thoroughbred races for 3-year-olds. Hialeah, it'll be the Flamingo Stakes. Then on to California for the Santa Anita Derby, where a Maryland-bred thoroughbred, Houston, will probably be the favorite. One of our favorites is my colleague. We go to him now, Nelson Burton, Jr.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Chris, you said an interesting field, and indeed it is. There's only one champion in the field, and that's the #1 man, Amleto Monicelli. It should be an easy victory. No experience out there, and you've already won before.
Well, it never is easy. You always have to bowl good, and I was supposed to be in the bubble for the Firestone. I guess I got to win this week to make sure I'm there.
Well, you mean the bubble. If you don't win this week, you go on the bubble next week, and if you don't win that week, you'll be out and be watching the Firestone Tournament champions from Barquisimeto, Venezuela.
No, I won't be watching that. I'm going to bowl.
All right, Chris. There's a lot of money at stake. This young man should be very tough to beat.
Yes, the winner will receive $27,000, $14,000, 8, 6, and 5. As we go into our 14th week in a tour of 16 cities. 28th year of the Winter Tour right here on ABC. And for the first time on television, for us, here is Tony Marisi, originally from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, now bowling out of Hilton Head. That's a big strike for the only left-hander in our field of 5, one of 4 non-winners, including his opponent from Big Spring, Texas, Phil Ringener. And there he is. Eighth television appearance for this non-winner. And Bo, he's left with a 4-8.
Chris, he left the 4-8, and the machine was out of cycle, and they'll have to reset the pins. So as you see the profile of Big Phil Ringener, 5-step delivery, shoulder-high arm swing, drives very hard with that pivot foot into a long slide. Excellent position at the point of release, and right now he's waiting around for the 4 and 8 pins to be reset, and just to set up the championship here a little bit, and how finely tuned these players are at the championship here as the magic steel fingers come down. Ron Bell says the right-hand lane is that we are watching, lane 16, is a quarter of a board slicker than the left-hand lane. So once again, the machine is out of cycle, and they'll have to redo the 4-8, Chris.
And look at the seriousness on that face of Phil Ringener, whose wife, Jill, who's in the audience today, usually is one of our assistants doing all kinds of duties in preparation for a live telecast. There she is, all prettied up for this event, and good wink as well, Bo.
Hey, Her husband's also got a very difficult spare, the 4-8. Got to avoid the chop and still get up to the 4-pin. First frame.
Making his third television appearance here in 1988. And he's had a string of no victories. 0-7 on television. Well, that sounds pretty anemic, doesn't it? But you must remember that his opponents have averaged 251.
That's a hard road to pull, but Art Trask, one of the PBA champions, went through that same type of thing when he first started. His opponents averaged around 250. Art, once he changed around, became a PBA champion.
And this 30-year-older meets another problem in a 6-7-10, Bo. Oh.
The 6-7-10, Philip goes up a little bit high, and the ball cuts right through the middle. And what he has to do is get the ball to the right of the 6-pin. That's the second pin on the right-hand part of your screen. Slide that 6 over into the 7 and keep some pressure on Tony Marisi.
So it's a spare and then an open frame, 26 through the second. And here's the man that started with a strike, the left-hander. His grandfather started a cheese factory in Fond du Lac. His father now operates it. Italian cheeses. Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. Now Marisi for a double.
Good form, and let's check it again.
Tony Marisi with a muscular type swing. Watch how he brings the ball inside. Then he'll realign it at the top of the swing. Here it comes, and he'll bump it out slightly. Then he tucks it back in right next to that slide foot. Follow through to the left. Excellent shot as he opens quickly with a double. Has a 24-pin advantage.
The defending champion of Fairlanes Open, Mark Williams, finished 15th. Spent some of the week in Fairlawn, Ohio, talking to elementary students about saying no to drugs. 3 in a row.
Now for Big Phil Ringener, who has made one fine adjustment, I think, Chris, and since he's been out here in the tour, which will help him become a winner. He used to throw the ball all the time, over 20 miles an hour. I think he was the hardest thrower on the tour. Has now learned how to use speed control to control the lane. And right now he needs some of that help as he trails by 34.
Bounding back now. We asked him about that 0-for-7 in championship rounds, what he plans to do about it today.
Well, in the first few championship rounds I made earlier in my career, I think it was due to inexperience. You know, I felt like I bowled good, but hopefully today, I've averaged 215 on TV. Unfortunately, I've had to notice that they've averaged 251 at me, but I don't look back at that, and hopefully things will change today and I'll bowl well.
Ringener for a double. All but the 2.
Phil Ringener very close on the first and third frames on the right-hand lane, makes a mistake in the second, gets a 6-7-10 split, then comes back and makes an adjustment to the left on the approach, which is the proper adjustment. And then he throws the ball a little bit too hard, doesn't allow the ball to break back. We use the 2-pin, and with this simple conversion, he would trail by 34 in the early going.
Pins separating these two professionals. This is the Bowler Bear. Bowler Bear will be back. This is Tony Marisi, who in the 4th frame left a 7-pin, covered it, marking the spare after he had opened with 3 in a row, leading by 33 pins. Now the left-hander moving to the left lane.
Tony Marisi, with that little bump in his arm swing, is definitely have a arm swing that's suited for an outside line. Most of the time you see a good inside player, say on the left side, such as Mike Albee, keeps that swing inside. the outside players like to have it cutting across their body slightly, like that shot there. And that's what happens when you have, as you look at Tony's parents, who obviously have made a little trip in here to Baltimore, and Tony's ball sliding by, living the 1-3, as he's getting ready to say. When your swing bounces out, you get the same feeling that you're getting lift and leverage, but you don't get the same result because you don't realize that arm swing is slightly away from the body, and it causes the hook to be reduced and not to have an effect of hooking it even more.
This 28-year-old has been a member of the PBA for 8 years, and as we indicated earlier, looking for his first win. Fortunately, has the backing of some sponsors to stay out here on the tour. And now Phil Ringener, whose dad owns a bowling center in Big Spring, and that's in Texas, close to Odessa and Midland.
His dad was his first sponsor, helped him get involved in the tour. As you look at the full grip, just the tips of the fingertips in the ball, trailing by 31, he needs to get it going, 5th frame.
And another difficult spare coming up with the 1, 2, 4, 10.
And right now, Phil Ringener has to really make this to stay in the match. He has to get the ball to the left side of the head pin over here in the 1-2 zone, drive that 10 pin over into the head pin over into the 10 pin, either that or catch it off the sideboard. And if he doesn't convert here, he's got a major, major problem.
How unlucky can you be?
Just by a ½ inch or so, as you see Tony Marisi preparing some tape for the thumb hole of his bowling ball. And once again, the ball of Ringener sliding by, knocking the head pin over into the 10. Misses it just, if it had touched it, knocked it over Chris and kept him close to the match. He'd only been trailing by 35. If he converts, now it's 46. He is in a must-strike situation early in the 6th frame.
Well, try again on the left lane with the same split.
Well, Phil, pulling out all stops, changed balls. He's had trouble the first 5 frames with the shiny blue ball. He pulls out a dull blue ball and actually hung up in the thumb hole, and now he's jumping back to another ball. When you're lost and you're grasping for things, sometimes it really just turns from bad to worse.
Well, 2 in a row, and Joe can't believe it either. Phil's white.
Well, that's really unlucky. The first time he had to wash out, the head pin just laid down in the channel in front of the 10. The second time, he hits a near perfect shot. The head pin goes around the top of the 10. And when it's not going your way, it's hard to turn around in a 1-game match. Marisi, 57 pin lead, 6th frame.
Again, a powerful strike. We mentioned, been on the tour for 8 years, struggling financially. Asked him how he's been able to stay out.
Well, I feel that each time I'm out, I've been improving, and I'm just looking forward to doing better each time, and each year has been getting better, and I've made a few changes, and it's starting to show, and hopefully my way to the top.
And right now he's making a change in the tape in his thumb hole. Good tip to be taken from Tony Marisi by amateurs is that thumb hole's a little loose. Take out a piece of tape in the back of the thumb. If it's a little bit too tight, take a piece out. If it's too loose, put one in. Now Marisi with a big lead.
All right, open with a triple, now a double. Tony Marisi bowling out of Hilton Head against Phil Ringener. We're in the Baltimore area at Woodlawn. Baltimore, with its aquarium, it's a great place to visit. First match in the 7th frame, a strike, and now 3-10. All right, finally. After back-to-back open frames, unable to convert splits with a spare, and now a strike and a spare. U.S. figure skating champions, Jill Trenery among them. and the Flamingo Stakes and the Santa Anita Derby. 2 thoroughbred races as they make preparations for the Kentucky Derby here on ABC. First Saturday in May, May 6th.
Chris, I have some tips for you right away before Maurice gets up to bowl. In the Flamingo Stakes, awe-inspiring is everybody's favorite, but try Irish Action for a second bet. And in the Santa Anita Derby, you like Houston, but try Sunday Silence. Could be very tough.
Tough strike. Beautiful strike. Again, duplicating the way he opened with a triple. Tony Maurice.
Maurice, untested in a championship round, is sure making the most of his first appearances. You see him sliding in the foul line, sliding right about the center of the lane, playing that extreme outside line. Can't do it any better. The ball enters the 1-2 pocket. Maurice, a potential 267. Ringener going at a 160 pace. Chance for the largest margin of victory of all time was Durbin's victory over Lobb in 1984, 279 to 153, 126 pins. This match has signs of going that way.
A little sigh of relief there. Not too happy with what he left. 1-3-6 on the left lane. Winner of this game, and it appears it will be Tony Maurice, Ron Bell of Akron, Ohio, and Don Moser of San Jose, California, and our tournament leader from Venezuela, Amleto Monicelli. Oh, leading by 62. The winner, Tony Maurice, will have the final scores, but first the Professional Bowlers Tour will continue after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
The Professional Bowlers Tour, brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By Armor All Car Wax, because we're crazy about cars, too. And by First Brands Corporation, makers of STP Son of a Gun Protectant.
Here we are, capacity crowd, Woodlawn, Fair Lanes in the Baltimore, Maryland area. Tony Maurice has won the first game, 2-11, 6 strikes to Phil Ringener's 152. Maurice having a little trouble at the end with some opens, but he now goes against Ron Bell. Oh, what about the championship pair?
Chris, the championship pair 15 and 16. It's a pretty even oil pattern of heavy oil in the first 20-some feet. Then it's a little bit lighter in the middle of the lane down 45 feet, and then it's dry in this area. Now let's take a look at the line. The right-handers are playing through this heavy oil right over the second arrow, and Tony Maurice is more down the left side over the first arrow into the pocket. And Chris, the championship pair, some people have written in and asked how they're picked. As you look at the pin deck, and this is what we call a phenolic pin deck, and that rough area there is actually lane finish that is rolled over into that actually synthetic pin deck that cuts down the wear. And going back to the championship pair, Chris, what we just picked championship pair simply for the viewing of the audience. We come into a bowling center, and if it's, say, a 40-lane bowling center, we just let it view for the people, and it doesn't make any difference how well it scores.
Here's a look at the Budweiser Kingpin standings coming into this tournament. Mike Albee, big winner this year, on top. Budweiser sponsoring a $50,000 pointless competition, which will run through the winter and spring tours. Players finishing among the top 24 will be awarded points, and each tournament leader receives 10 bonus points. Here we go now with the second match, and this is a svelte, different Ron Bell that we've seen in the past, having lost 50 pounds, weighing in at 200, 5'11", looking for that first PBA victory. This is his 10th telecast. All right. Dead serious Ron Bell, likable guy from Akron, Ohio. Here's Maurice now, who won that last game, 211, 159. Averaged in 2 matches on this championship pair, which Bo explained to you, he averaged 246.
That should be enough to win all the matches today if you can continue that pace.
Oh, what a lovely tap at the end.
Well, there's nothing like winning a match in the championship round to loosen you up, and those pins know when you roll that ball relaxed off your hand. The 4-pin goes to the sideboard, bounces off the channel, love taps the 7. Tony Morisi's off to another fast start.
Look at this reaction. Oh. Look back and you'd love it. Yes. Kenny double. Second match for Morisi.
Tony, who has been light on the left-hand lane, lane 15 and 16 here, lane 15 here at Fairlanes, once again is light. All he needs to do is make a slight adjustment. As you see this ball coming in the 1-2 pocket, almost leaves the 3-5-6, ends up with a 6-pin. But if he can make an adjustment on this lane, he could be very, very tough, because he looks awfully sharp on the right-hand lane.
And a spare for Tony Morisi. And this man is always ready. Ron Bell. Who last year earned $57,000 without a win. Nearly $6,000 thus far this year, having started late. Sliding by, and he is left to 2.
Ron Bell with excellent all-around athletic ability. He's a good golfer, does everything well, and as you see his bowling style, he's facing slightly to the right, then realigns his body right at the pivot point right there. He drives his right foot forward, squares up the shoulder, good follow-through, and he's just had the same problem that Ringner has had on the right-hand lane, not being able to read the slick lane surface.
Ron, throughout this Fairlanes Open, had 11 consecutive 200s. And during play, defeated all 4
opponents.
The field of 5, right.
Right, Chris. And psychologically, that can take over. There's 24 match games, and with 24 finalists, and Bell defeating all of them, I think some of those players will remember that today, and the only one he needs to have it remembered right now is Tony Morisi.
And in match play, he defeated Morisi twice. Not once, but twice. But Morisi won the first game 211 to 159.
What a great break, as you see the profile of Ron Bell playing around the second arrow, and then the ball comes in light. Oh, watch the action of the head pins. It goes to the sideboard. The head pin goes to the left sideboard, takes out the 4, 5, and all of a sudden the 8-pin. A tremendous break as he keeps the match even.
No lack of enthusiasm or expression from Tony Morisi. And it's all even as you see.
Tony Morisi, he's doing something to his shoes, and Ron Bell's doing something to his. Morisi takes a little saliva and puts it on his heel to stop him coming up to the foul line. Ron Bell, if you notice, when he gets off the approach, he'll take a steel brush and clean off his sliding sole. Both good preparations to make sure you get an even, solid foundation at the line.
Look at that preparation. Six, 7, 10.
Morisi trying to make the adjustment to get solid in the pocket on the left-hand lane. Goes up, over adjusts to the left, drives the ball up, and now he leaves a 6, 7, 10 split. And he needs to convert this by rolling the ball over in the 6-10 area. Slide that 6-pin over into the 7. If he converts, the match will be even.
So it's an open frame for Tony Morisi. We're in Baltimore at the Fairlanes Open, the schooner and tallest of buildings downtown, and the storied clock. And I mentioned 110 bowling establishments. 2 men at the top. On the right, Wally Hall, the chief executive officer, and Fairlanes chief operating officer, Steve Friedberg. Boy, they have their hands full with a great number of lanes, and they're very efficient operation.
Ron Bell, fourth frame for a 22-pin lead.
All right. Earlier we asked Ron, you came out late starting in Peoria. You've made some lifestyle changes.
Well, I was overweight. I started out at 245, and my cholesterol count was real high. I was at about 360, which is really bad. And I just wanted to lose some weight and to feel good about myself. So I went to my family doctor, and through his help and through the inspiration of other people, I've been able to lose 50 pounds and feel good about myself. And it's important for the people to know out there that if I can do it, they can do it.
Well said. And 3 in a row for the Akronite. And here, of course, we're looking at Claudia Bell.
Ron Bell rubbing off that sliding sole. And the last chance for anybody to qualify for the Firestone will be next week, the Greater Hartford Open. Tony Westlake's the defending champion. And then the final telecast of this year's Winter Tour will be the first Firestone Tournament of Champions in Akron, Ohio. Now, Tony Marisi, check out his sliding sole. He has a, as you can see on his right foot, almost a corrugated sole right there and heel to stop him from sliding. Ron Bell, the other way, likes to slide, so he has a little bit different setup.
Robbed a 7-pin. Tony Marisi won the first match over Phil Ringener, 211 to 159. And the winner of the second game will meet Don Moser of San Jose. And then in the championship match, the opponent will be the tournament leader, Amleto Monicelli. The many-time champion Walter Ray Williams won here in 1986, and last week invited to the White House to help inaugurate President Bush's horseshoe pitching court. He enjoyed that, but he said his biggest thrill, and I can understand why, was having a hamburger with Lee Iacocca.
Well, that's good. He was probably hungry, so that was part of the thrill.
But I got to work with Lee Iacocca, the introduction of the Mustang, and I found him to be the most fascinating. I'd put him in the top 3 all time.
Very good. I trust your word. Now, Marisi trails by 32, needs some strikes, 6th frame.
Beautiful shot by the left-hander, the only one in the field of 5.
Ron Bell, when I interviewed him a few years back as an amateur, he said that when he has a string of strikes, he'll continue to sit in the same seat. Well, he has 3 strikes in a row up, and he moved from one seat to the other there during Tony Marisi's last shot. Let's see if his superstition for staying in the same seat works out. Theoretically, he should miss on this shot.
Ron Bell showing you perfection. 4 in a row.
Ron Bell, he's kind of out of line. He's facing a little to the right, but he has that good, solid slide foot. Now, remember, he's cleaning that left shoe every time so he can get that nice, long, smooth slide. And he hit the line perpendicular to the foul line directly towards his target. And that's why he has such excellent direction. It's really that last step and a half where the whole bowling game is made. Now, 4 in a row, 7th frame, 42-pin lead.
Three-pin, didn't like it.
Ron Bell, so confident when just before we went on the air, he finished his last couple of practice shots, Chris. He said there's only a 1/4 of a board difference between the break on lane 16 and the break on 15. When a fellow has that fine a feel for the lane surface, all he has to do is just perform his game, and he's going to get good results. And so far, they've been almost perfect for Ron Bell.
Ron Bell, for all these years, not eligible for the Firestone in his hometown. A win today would get him there. Mr. Locks, Connecticut next week. And, Bo, there's a daily double.
Yeah, very nice. Thank the Wally Hall and the Fairlanes people for the nice greeting. Now, Marisi comes up in the 7th. Strike up, trails by 41. Must strike.
Now the split broken up, leaving the 9-pin on the right lane.
Tony Morisi just struggling with that thumb hole the whole game. He puts a piece of tape in his thumb and he can't get out of it, and he takes a piece of tape out and he drops it, and he almost leaves a 7-9 split here. And he has a real problem, not only with Ron Bell, but with his own bowling game. Can't hold on to the ball.
We have two very strong ABC affiliates in this area, Bo. Channel 7 in Washington, Channel 13 here in Baltimore, and the high locals, Tony Brooks of Washington, 22nd, $1,600, and Denny Weissman, 1,900 as we look at the parents, the Morisis from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. And their son with the 7-pin.
The importance of keeping your hand underneath the bowling ball and getting that wrist to put the lift on it. Tony squeezing the ball a little bit, gets over what we call over the top of it. It looks like it's rolling down the lane with enough power, but just an extra half a revolution, he would have kicked out both of those 7-pins and been back in the match. Right now, the best Tony can bowl is 207, Bell going at a 229 pace.
Spare up, 8th frame. Six, 7, 10.
Ronnie just slowed down the ball there. You have to keep the ball speed up, keep it consistent, and the ball cuts through the middle. 6, 7, 10. That's the third time we've seen that split today. Nobody's converted it. The odds are about 6-1 for the pros. Bell has to get over in the 6-10 area, drive that 6 over in the 7. And even if he doesn't, he'll still have a commanding lead, but he can lose the game now if he gets a few open frames.
His lead now is 28 pins, coming up to the 9th frame for Ron Bell.
Ronnie, looking at the scoreboard, must think about getting marks. 2 marks, spares or strikes in the 9th and 10th frames, and he'll shut out Tony Morisi. If Ronnie comes up with a errant shot in either one of those frames, he opens the door for Morisi to throw 3 strikes and get right back in the match.
In the lead now with a 1-2-10.
Starting looking for the finish line before he found the last furlong pole, Chris, and here he goes, 1-2-10. We've seen this wash out twice, both by Phil Ringener. He failed to convert. Right now, if Bell misses it, Morisi can still win the match.
Double checking Tony. Clutch shot by the man from Akron, Ron Bell.
1 out of 3 for the pros. We saw one player drive the head pin over the 10. Bell makes it perfect. Good, solid concentration on his target. He's got to like it.
In contemplate while Tony Morisi goes to work on the right lane. 9th frame, spare up.
For Tony Morisi to have any chance of winning his 2nd consecutive match here today, he must strike on the next 2 balls. That would force Ron Bell to mark with a spare strike in the 10th. If Morisi does not strike, he settles for 4th place.
Which means they're Ann and Frank Morisi, finishing 4th in the Fairlanes Open. It's worth $6,000. Phil Ringener losing in the first game to this man, $5,000. Coming on from behind.
The difference is 18 pins. At one point just 2 frames ago, it was 42 pins. With a third consecutive strike by this young lefty, the match would be down to 8 pins and force Ron Bell to mark.
Parents and friends have to be proud of this 28-year-older.
Little test of nerves coming up here. Morisi, coming back from the depths, is back in the match. He can finish with a 2:07 game and force Ron Bell to mark in the 10th. Amazing comeback.
Best performance ever. First time on TV for Tony. 6th last year in North Olmsted. 8th in Miami. 7 strikes. In his second game with a victory over Wingener in the first, shooting a 2:07.
Well, he's put the pressure on Bell, and his situation is simply this. Ron Bell needs a spare or a strike of any kind, and he wins the match. Remember, he opened here with a 6-7-10 split in the 8th frame. But he can't afford that now.
So a 10-pin.
For Ron Bell, he must convert this spare and get 4 pins on his last ball. The 4 pins will be simple. The spare is the match.
Not necessarily routine.
By no means. We've seen a lot of top pros miss 10 pins. I don't think Bell's going to miss this one, though, Chris. You see, I told you, Chris, he wouldn't miss that.
I hope your horse picks are better than that shot. Woo! How's this, Bo? Look at this.
4.5-inch diameter of a bowling pin, a 9.25-inch diameter of a bowling ball, 13 inches to play with, and he used every bit of it.
Oh, got 7, needed 4. 2:11 to 2:07, and Claudia Bell will see her husband, along with you, go against another non-winner, Don Moser. 2 different winners, Morisi in the first, a race by Bell in the second, at 2:11 to 2:07. Now it's Bell moving against Don Moser of San Jose, California, as the tournament leader, and Leto Monicelli continues to practice, awaiting for the championship game. 2-time winner, Monicelli, and next week, Fairlanes Open in Baltimore, then the silver anniversary of the Firestone Tournament of Champions, Nelson.
Well, you're right, Chris. It's not the Fairlanes Open in April next week. It's the Hartford Open, by the way, and that is really a good stop, and obviously the Firestone Tournament of Champions, the 3rd jewel in the Triple Crown. And here's the field, 160 players, and Mats Carlson up there again. Arnold, you see his name every week. Houston, Lathrop had a good week. Jimmy Pritz, Charlie Tapp, Ron Williams, Sam Macarone, Duke, 2-time champion Mark Williams, your guy Mike Edwards, Chris, the Wizard Ozio, powerful Jimmy Keith, the local boy Weissman, Rokoskas got a ice check, Rowdy Morrow, Tony Brooks, another local fellow, Chris Warren had a 290 in his last game, Pete McCordick round out the top 24.
Now get ready to meet for the first time today and on our ABC telecast, 29-year-old Don Moser, a native of San Jose, California.
Watch this guy. First appearance. He's a good-looking player.
Crossing over, leaving the 9 on the left lane.
Don Moser is well known on the West Coast. He competed quite a bit in our regional program, but never really had a penchant to come out here on a professional bowlers tour until this year. And regardless of how well he plays today, you're going to see a lot more of this young man. He's got all the tools.
Just gets the 9. Don Moser, 190-pounder against 200-pound Ron Bell. Won that last game, 211, 207. Sliding by, leaving only the 2.
Ron Bell, who obviously needs a victory to get in the Firestone, would definitely be a force if he gets to the Firestone Tournament champion. He bowls league there and is familiar with every board and every lane. He says, Bo, I just want to win one and perform in front of my hometown fans. And he is a determined man to get there, whether it's this week or some other week. He'll make the trip sooner or later.
We've enjoyed knowing Ron Bell over the years, and Bo, we remember U.S. Open North Carolina, and he was your opponent in the final game.
Ron Bell lost to me at the U.S. Open in 1978, but he did have some pro experience. He spent 2 years in the Pro Tour in 76 and 77, opted to become an amateur for about 4 more years, and then in 1982 decided to sign as a professional bowler, and he's been on the tour pretty steady for the last 6 years, and he keeps getting better and better, now knocking on the door of his first victory.
And he has left the 5-pin.
One thing you can watch with both of these players, and sometimes throws a player way off, and especially under pressure, is the head movement at the point of release. Ron Bell started pulling his eyes off the target before he released that ball, and you kind of go numb. Your subconscious kicks in and you panic, and it's usually an errant shot. That's what happened to Ron on that particular second frame toss.
Bell with 2 spares, and his opponent, Don Moser, opened with 1, now shooting in the second frame. Here's a young man that was 6th at the ARC Pinot Open the day the lights went out in Northern California.
Our first telecast of the '89 season.
That's a high hit, leaving the 4.
See a nice style that's been developed over the years. The 5-step delivery by Moser. Watch the arm swing solid and locked. The wrist cocked underneath it. Drives good with his pivot step. And what I really like, Chris, is how he releases that wrist at the point at the foul line and then continues to follow through directly with his arm to the target. Good work ethics.
Didn't your Hall of Fame father always say stretch and hold?
Stretch and hold, and he credits a young man that we have out on the tour right now, Brad Snell, as having the finest finish at the foul line among all the pros, and I have to agree. Brad is very pronounced with his slide, keeps that elbow locked, and holds his follow through. And if there's one lesson as you can look at the full grip of Don Moser's is keep your form under pressure and you'll get better results.
Crossing over again on the left lane. And leaving the 3, is bowled in all 14 tournaments. Bowl next week in our 15th, which is the Greater Hartford Open at Windsor Locks, Connecticut.
And the final chance to get in the Firestone. And the Greater Hartford Open historically is an outside shot, somewhere between the first board and the 8th or 9th board. So the down and in players usually have great success there.
And when we get there, Bo, it'll be Maine lobster time. Aha. Getting a lot of high hits. And Ron now faced with a 310.
A characteristic of the championship here we've seen a number of times is the players starting to get lost in the semifinal match. What Bell has to do is get his ball over here with a 3-pin, have the ball deflect into the 10 to convert the spare, and he would only trail by 1. If he doesn't, he will trail by 12. His wife Claudia looks on. She says, Ron, I see you make this all the time. Do it now, bud.
relief for Claudia, and inspiration for Ron.
Perfect. Just nicks the 3-pin, ball deflects into the 10, baby split. It's a must at this level of play in championship rounds to convert the what we call easy splits. And Bell has hung in there by doing so. He likes that. He converted that 3-10, and Chris, obviously that 1-2-10 washout was the difference between a victory and a loss against Tona Marissi in the second match.
And a 6-7 is a big problem for Bell.
Nobody's been even close, and you need to get that ball over to the right of the 6 pin, drive it over in the 7. We've seen the players try this for a 4th time on this shot, and right now Ron Bell, who is really kind of lost of where the 1-3 pocket is, needs to convert and make something happen. He'll go for it boldly.
That could be the difference between winning and losing. Mosier now leading by 14. Frustrating indeed. More of the semifinal match from Fairlanes and Woodlawn after this. Walt Steinsick, who is president of the Bowling Writers Association of America. They made a great contribution to this industry, and Walt is their leader. Here is Don Moser, left at 10, marked with a spare, now trying to shoot a 2-8.
Needs this to stay in the lead.
11 pins separating the two, and now Ron Bell with an open frame, the 4th shooting in the 5th.
What should Ron Bell do? He's lost. What he should do is move to the right on the approach, use a little of that power he's got, throw the ball a little harder and straighter towards the pocket. He's trying it right there.
A 9.
But not a bad result. He got the lane reaction and the ball reaction he wanted. He cut his hook down, went straight towards the 1-3 pocket, eliminated all that spotty oil lane condition out there, and now he's going to get right back in the match. Chris, that's how Amleto Monticelli won his first title of it in Las Vegas. A spotty lane condition like this, cut the big hook down, start throwing a straight shot right towards the 1-3 hole. Remember, it's not a score contest, it's a match game contest.
So the Midwest represented by Ron Bell, and the West Coast, San Jose's Don Moser.
All right, let's see what Bell does here. He wipes off some of that lane conditioner, puts a little pat of rosin in the thumb hole, wipes that off, now he should make a move to the right slightly on approach and throw a much straighter shot. I think he'll be right around the 2nd arrow with very little break if he makes the same adjustment as he did on the right.
The right adjustment.
Perfect, and he has an inexperienced player, Don Moser, as his opponent. Moser has failed to strike, and he really hasn't been too close to the pocket so far. He left a 9-pin the 1st, then a 4, then he slid by and left a 3-pin, then he got a wall shot 10-pin the 4th, and a 2-8 spare in the 5th, but he still leads by 11. But sooner or later, if you're struggling like that, you're going to have an open frame. Moser has to get something going, generate some momentum.
The man that had back-to-back perfect 300 games in Peoria and then in Atlantic City.
Albee, our leading money winner, Ballard, Voss, all, I'm sure, tuning up for the last couple weeks and especially targeting the Firestone Tournament champions. And a note on Don Moser, he made the same adjustment that Ron Bell did in that particular frame. Cut down the big hook, went a little bit straighter with a little more speed towards the pocket, keep that ball in play. He can now take an 11-pin lead with his first double in the championship round.
Big Brooklyn for Don Moser from California, leading by 21 pins. More of the semifinal following this. Looking at a 2-pin that Ron Bell now will try to cover in the 8th frame of the semifinal game. And while we were away with a strike up, Bell And a strike in the 7th to cut the lead to 11. Now Moser leads by 12, a double up.
And really a shaky lead. He got a crossover Brooklyn in the 7th to make a double. He needs to capitalize on that right now. I'm sure the match will go to the last shot.
There's the 9.
More and more, the solid 9 appears in the sport of professional bowling, and it shouldn't be. Watch the ball as it cuts through. It should deflect off the 5-pin and into the 9-pin. The game was designed that way. These pins, these bowling balls, and the urethane finishes, the combination is just much too strong for professional bowling. They need a little heavier pin so that the players get rewarded for the good shots.
All right. Don Moser, San Jose, first full year on the tour. 29 years old. We asked him why he waited so long.
Well, I never really had the financial backing to come out on tour, and I really didn't know about the regional programs. And then when I finally found out about the regional programs, I bowled those for 3 years, and I was pretty successful. And then our tournament director, Lynn Nicholson, who is, knows a lot about bowling, helped me with my game. And I decided this year to sell shares of myself to make it out here. Came out, and so far everything's working out pretty well for me.
Chris, 45 shares at $200 a pop. $9,000 was his bankroll coming out here, and he's going to more than repay that in this winter tour, as he's already earned out $19,000 and adding.
That crossover left him with the 3-10 and shaky shareholders at the moment.
They're surely rooting for everything that he can get, but if he would happen to miss this 3-10 baby split, and we've seen this made before, get the ball over the 3-pin, bounce into the 10, the match would be down to just 2 pins, the difference. Moser needs this to maintain his lead.
Costly miss. Coming in the 9th frame, giving him 171 through 9 and trailing by 2. Bell with the spare up, shooting in the 9th.
With the horse races following us, Chris, there's one thing pro bowlers can learn right now. Ron Bell, you must go to the whip. You have the match won if you can throw some strikes. Don't hold anything back. This is a stretch drive.
10.
This conversion, the same spare that Bell almost missed in his Tony Morisi match to hand it back to Morisi, would leave the match with a 1-pin difference in Bell's favor going into the final frame.
Loser of this match, 8,000. Winner moves into the championship game for either 14,000 for runner-up or 27 as champ. Well, he made sure, Bo, he wasn't left to that pin.
Well, we say with spares, especially single-pin spares, all that you have to do is touch that 3-pound, 6-ounce pin with that 16-pound spheroid, and it'll go over. Bell has proven that twice on the 10-pin. And the scoreboard, as Ron Bell's parents look on, and wife, tells the story. Bell has a 1-pin lead going into the 10th, but he can lose count because he has a spare up. Moser cannot lose count because he has an open, a very good possibility of a tie.
Ron's father-in-law, Bill Cummings, is here as well. Bill's daughter, Claudia. A 2. Not happy, but has to be satisfied.
The scoreboard tells the story. The 9th frame, both players have 171. Ron Bell will make this spare, and the best he can finish is 191. Moser going at a 191 pace. It's up for grabs. Anybody's match. It'll be the last ball that determines the winner.
2 non-winners on the tour. Businesslike, almost into a trot when he returns from the line.
Slight advantage to the inexperienced, untested in this position, Don Moser, because Bell only has 1 shot to get a strike. Moser will have 2 shots to get a strike, considering he strikes either in the first ball of the 10th or the first ball in the 11th.
Fans in Akron cheering, which is for the 25th year, the scene of the Firestone Tournament of Champions, and they're inviting back 7 winners of that event, no longer regular on the tour, like Anthony, Hardwick, Davis, Godman, Johnson, Zahn, and Berlin.
Big shot, Don Moser, 10th frame.
Sliding by, and 2-sleeper 8.
The scales tilt in favor of Ron Bell. The 2-8 spare, very difficult to convert, has to make this and strike to tie the match. Bell cannot lose unless we go into a 2-frame sudden death roll-off, similar to the 9th and 10th frames. But what's facing Moser now is the 2-8 spare and then a must strike if he converts. Anything less than that, it's Bell against Monticelli for the title. Here we go.
Here we go.
Absolutely must strike on this ball for a tie in a sudden death 2-frame roll-off.
For the tie. A 2-frame roll-off after a tie at 191.
Now here's what's happened. Bell finished first. He'll go up and bowl 1 frame, similar to the 9th frame. Pretend this is the 9th frame for Ron Bell. He'll bowl 1 shot and sit down. Then Moser will get up on the right-hand lane and bowl the 9th frame for him, or similar to the 9th frame, and then an equivalent to the 10th frame. If they tie again, they'll just do it again. Here's the first shot, sudden death.
Ron Bell. Don Moser. And a 310 for the man that had most games over 200, 33 of them.
He missed the 310 split in his tie match 191 against Ron Bell. He definitely needs to make it in this situation. Get that ball to the right of the 3-pin, have it deflect into the 10. I've never seen it before in a championship round.
Never,
Chris.
never.
I'll tell you what happened. The 10-pin got slightly moved by the 6-pin, so it moved slightly off spot. Then the big hook ball hung way out on the edge, and with that sharp-breaking urethane ball, goes right between the 3 and 10 pins. I've seen it before in tournaments, but never in competition.
Difficult to do when you were trying to do that. He didn't want that, of course.
And what a horrible break. Upsetting, to say the least. I mean, he is completely flustered out there, and I don't blame him.
Every right.
The match is still not over. Remember, we're in a sudden death 2-frame roll-off. Moser has 8 pins in his first attempt. A spare here and a strike. He would finish with 28 for his 9th and 10th frame. That would force Ron Bell to mark again.
Pressure.
The account, oh so important for Moser, as you see the scoreboard. A strike here on his last shot would give him 28. That would force Ron Bell to get a spare or a strike to win the match. If Bell would happen to open and end up with 28 also, we'd do it again.
.28 for Don Moser of San Jose as Amleto Monticelli stays loose by practicing. He's the tournament leader to meet the eventual winner of this extended competition.
It's going to end right here. Ron Bell, I don't believe, will give this away.
.25.
Well, he's breathing hard. It's a possibility. The 2-5 spare, as every bowling fan knows, is very missable, very choppable. You can pluck that 2-pin right off the 5, and if it would happen, we'd once again have a tie.
Okay, it'll be Ron Bell against Amleto Monticelli. Professional Bowlers Tour will continue after this message. Thank you, Frank. And the West Coast professional, Moser, losing in a tiebreaker, 30-28. And Bell goes against two-time winner, Amleto Monticelli. Tough way to make a living on the Professional Bowlers Tour. Just had an example of it for two non-winners, Bo. A hard break for Moser.
Well, Chris, this is what you learn on the Pro Tour. It comes down to the last ball. I think the amateurs found that out in the U.S. Open last week when they only averaged 182, and the pros beat them by 19 pins a game. And we have two pros that are upcoming, kind of, but they're still experienced. Monticelli's only won twice, and he won on a very difficult condition, going against Ron Bell, who said he can win, and he has more of an inspiration, really, than Monticelli. Bell would like to get to the Firestone, his hometown.
That's right. And speaking of horse racing, two thoroughbred races after us today on Wide World. Tomorrow, look forward to this, the debut of Indy car racing. The AutoWorks 200 from Phoenix, which is the fastest 1 mile oval anywhere. That's at 4 Eastern and 3 Central. AutoWorks 200, getting ready for the Indianapolis 500 near the end of May right here exclusively on ABC. So here we go into the championship game. Ron Bell with 2 victories, 211 to Tony Marisi's 207, then in a tiebreaker, 30-28 over Don Moser. There's Monticelli from Barquisimeto, Venezuela.
Ron Bell's sponsor, Dick Grant and Jeffy Mraz, also sponsored our tournament leader who finished second last week, Jim Pensek. So they're hoping for a little better fate for their horse this week, Ronnie Bell.
Determined Ron Bell in his third game this afternoon in the Fairlane Open.
Here's a man who has bowled the championship round from the #1 seed 6 times, has 5 losses and just 1 victory, has struggled from that #1 position, the full grip, and the only true power player we have in the championship round today, Monticelli.
Not a solid pocket hit, but he got some.
Terrific break. Watch the action. The head pin goes to sideboard and cuts right back on through. The head pin takes out the 4. The 4 falls against the 8. The 8 lays down into the 4 pin again and trips out the 2 pin. A power player's friend when he can get a terrific break like that instead of a very difficult 2-8 spare or even a 2-8-10 split.
Amleto, his 27th television appearance, 4th this year. He was 2nd in the True Value, 3rd in the PBA National, 4th in the Bowlers Journal Florida Open, Merritt Island. Tournament leader with a double. He led the last 4 rounds of the Fairlanes Open to get to that top spot. Ron Bell. There was some noise that bothered Ron because you notice how quickly he looked away right after the release, but he got the desired result, as we're all tied after 2 frames.
Maybe that's the trick. Ron Bell, it's been a long way for him the last 10 or 12 years. Tried as a pro in 76 and 77, couldn't make it. Went back as an amateur, almost won the U.S. Open, then really struggled in the early 80s. Has changed his lifestyle and is now on the threshold of possibly his first PBA title.
Through the soap. Stringing 3 here in the title game. Taking a 10-10 lead, but Amleto Monicelli with a double-up shooting in the 3rd.
Amleto, who says his country of Venezuela receives the PBA Tour by satellite. I guess those fortunate enough to have satellite dishes are watching their countrymen, one of the top international players on the tour, shoot for his 3rd PBA title, 3rd frame. He needs to strike to stay even.
Crossing over and leaving the 10 pin. A replay of the last shot from a profile angle.
Monicelli with that powerful style, 5-step delivery. He gets that real high backswing. He cocks that wrist at the top of the swing and prepares to release that power shot. And that wrist does all the work.
Double or spare called Monicelli. You hear from so many people who are shut in that enjoy our bowling telecast. And I know today one of our teammates, 2 of our teammates, Ed Witherspoon, who had a stroke last Monday, resting comfortably in Mount Vernon Hospital, and will make quick recovery. And all of us, Spoonie, wish you a quick recovery and return. And retired Bob Armbruster, technical manager. After surgery, we wish him the speediest of recoveries. 2 great guys.
You're right. Now, Monicelli, 4th frame, trails by 11. The power shot.
2-5 for Monicelli.
I think the only chance that Monicelli is going to have to stay competitive in this match is to do what he did in his Las Vegas victory. We have what we call oil carry down. The PBA applied the oil 41 feet on the lane, but the players' balls have carried it down almost to the pins. And when that happens, you must throw a straighter shot to the pocket. Monicelli is going to be erratic if he doesn't straighten his shot out.
This is a championship match of the Fairlanes Open, 20th anniversary in the Baltimore area. More of it following this. Ohio now has 5 in a row, striking in the 4th and 5th frames, putting the pressure on 2-time champion Amleto Monicelli, trailing now by 33, a spare-up shooting in the 5th of the title game.
Big shot for Monicelli here as he has struggled a little bit on the left-hand lane, and he knows that Ron Bell, even though he has 5 strikes in a row, struggled to get those 5 strikes. In the 4th frame while we were away, Bell crossed over to the left side of the headpin and got a good break. As you see, the leaders by round, 18 games to qualifying this week, and Monicelli asserted himself all the way through match play. In fact, going into the final and 6th round and 42nd game, he had almost a 300 pin lead entering the last 8 games. Right now, he trails by 33 pins with just 5 frames left.
Cutting the lead now to 23 pins. Teresa, Amleto's wife, and his brother, a fellow professional, Rodolfo.
Rodolfo, an improving young man on the tour, has been out here all year, has gotten a few checks, and he really throws a tremendously powerful ball. But Ron Bell is playing the lanes properly, and he has 5 in a row.
Ron now is halfway to a possible perfect 300, and if that happens, $100,000 from True Value.
Well, normally when a player rolls 300, Chris, he has a little bit more margin of error to strike than we do here at Fairlanes today. And if Ron Bell shoots a perfect game, it'll have to be the best perfect game on the toughest conditions I've seen one roll on in a championship round. Long way to go. He still has to think about winning the match. He only has a 33-pin lead over the tough Monicelli.
There's that high hit. So the string ends at 6. Nice face with the 3-10.
Well, Bell needs to, once again, slip that ball between the 3 and 10 pins, have it deflect off the 3 into the 10. And to show you how quickly it can change in a professional bowler's tour, if Bell would happen to miss this, Monicelli get up and throw 2 strikes, Monicelli would have the lead.
Well, there is your open frame after 6 strikes in a row. We'll continue following this. Venezuela left a 6-pin in the 7th frame, marked with a spare, and now a strike in the 8th. And he trails Ron Bell by 20 pins. Bell up after an open, shooting in the 8th of the championship game. Way off.
Uncharted territory for Ron Bell physically, and uncharted territory for his bowling ball on that particular shot, as he almost missed, as the vernacular on the tour goes, almost missed the building. Let his arm get a little bit away from his body, and he left the 3-9 spare. Look at this. He barely hit the head pin going away on the left, and he's left himself a very, very difficult spare as he's trying to struggle to the 10th frame with a lead. He needs this to keep his 20-pin lead.
That's the sleeper 9. 8th frame spare, Ron Bell, Akron, Ohio, not eligible for the Firestone. Monicelli is, with 2 PBA wins in the Japan Cup and 1988 Showboat Invitational winner.
Bell, who started out his diet in the 240 to 250 range, lost almost 50 pounds, says his goal is 175. And if he wins this championship today, he ought to jump on the scale. He could lose a lot of that in 1 hour and a half performance here. 9th frame.
Love that foundation strike. Watch this.
Super shot, his best shot of the championship match, and he just saws that 5-pin out of there.
First of a faint smile for Ron Bell. Immediately following us, ABC's Wide World of Sports. Special performances by the United States Figure Skating Champions, plus live Flamingo Stakes, Hialeah, Santa Anita Derby from the track of the same name. 3-year-olds prepping for the Derby.
Monicelli in a must situation. Well, we've already had 1 tie today. The breaks in the championship game have gone about even so far. Monicelli getting a double on a crossover. Bell had 1 in the 4th frame on a frame and a crossover. And the scoreboard tells the story. If Monicelli strikes on this ball, they are all even.
Ron Bell tying with Don Moser in the last game at 191, then winning the 2-frame roll-off 30 to 28. Could we have 2 in one telecast? First we pick.
The answer after that shot of your question of a possibility of 2 ties, it just became very possible. Right now, Monicelli going at a 2:36 pace through 10 frames. Ron Bell going at a 2:36 pace as Teresa Monicelli looks on. Bell through 9 frames. It's up for grabs on the last ball.
27,000 to the winner, 14,000 to the runner-up.
If Monicelli strikes on this ball, he'll force Bell to strike and get the same count.
1, 2, 4, 10.
Monticelli opens the door right now for Ron Bell. Monticelli gets up the line. He turns the ball too quickly. If you turn the ball too quickly and don't keep your hand behind it until the point of release where your thumb comes out, it will not take the required break. Monticelli, a little anxious, opens the door for Bell. The best Monticelli can do is 232. Bell would need a spare and a count to win the match.
Monticelli, who had to double in the 10th, to remain in the lead last game, finding it much more difficult, but still shooting a 230.
For Ron Bell, he needs a spare and a 5 count to make his first trip back home as a champion.
Eligibility for the first time in the Firestone Tournament of Champions in his hometown. What a thrill.
He's looking for the scoreboard, but all he has to do is keep it behind the foul line. Ron Bell, just throw it down there, hit the head pin, take your victory lap, and he'll see you in 2 weeks at the Firestone Tournament of Champions, pal.
Strong finish by Bell. He is the winner. He'll be in the 250s to Monticelli's 230. That's Wally Hall, Chief Executive Officer of the Vast Fairlanes chain. Ron Bell wins his first and most important, $27,000. Coming up next on ABC's Wide World of Sports.